Alrighty. Well, we haven't even really talked about which one we're doing next, so hey, look forward to that. Next mystery thing. Yeah. Keeping her in the NFL, we're going to talk about two of the biggest contracts this offseason in any sport. With two very young, very good quarterbacks getting extensions. In Love staying in Green Bay at $220 million for 4 years, as well as Tua staying with the Dolphins at 4 years. Both massive contracts, both apparently negotiated by the same dude. Hell of an afternoon. Imagine telling your wife that. Imagine going home honey, I just negotiated $400 million worth of contracts. We're going to Tahiti. It's it was a good day for him. But anyway, both massive contracts in their own right. I think we're gonna start with the Dolphins. We're gonna go. We're probably just gonna split them up. We're combining the segments because they happened, I believe, on the same day. They did happen on the same day. That's why we know about the agent thing. But they happened on the same day. Within hours of each other, apparently. So we'll keep them in the same segment. We're going to start off talking about Tua. Once again, $212 million over 4 years. Massive deal. A little bit less than Jordan Love, which I don't know if that's surprising or not, but it's interesting for sure. It's something to talk about. But yeah, I'll throw it over to you, Caleb. I'll let you give your take on what you think of. Again, we'll start with Tua. What do you think about the Tua deal specifically?
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that's been very, I think, I don't know if controversial is the right word, but up in the air, because I think Tua and maybe Jared Goff are very much the linchpins of, do you pay a quarterback top 5-ish money for very average play just so you don't lose what you have? Because I think the Dolphins and Lions especially are franchises that very much know what it's like to be in quarterback hell. Both of those franchises, I mean, I guess the Lions had Stafford, but before that, obviously, the Lions had never really had anything too stellar. Dolphins, post Dan Marino, same kind of deal.
It's a bit longer.
I don't know how much.
A bit longer.
I don't know how. Yeah, I don't know how much you like Ryan Tannehill, but anyways, two franchises that know what it's like to be in quarterback hell, and you wonder if that has any sort of say in it. I think the biggest thing is just in this league, quarterback is still the most important position, and you kind of have the one that you have because the point that you made before the podcast, Simon, is, well, what are you going to do if you don't extend him? Now, if you look at the Dolphins, they have a fantastic roster around Tua, right? Obviously, you have Tyreek. You have your star receiver in your other star receiver in Jalen Waddle. You have some great pieces on the defense. Just reading off the list: Bradley Chubb, Jalen Ramsey, a couple of good young players on there: Javon Holland, Jalen Phillips. Jordan Brooks, my guy. But you have this solid roster around him, and you have to say, how big of a step back do we take if we let Tua walk? And it's going to be a big one. And I think you're almost caught in limbo because the roster is never going to be bad enough to get a number one pick and then restart. So you're pretty much hemmed in. I don't think there was any other option, which leads to Tua having a lot of negotiating power, which leads to him getting probably a lot more money than he was worth. Now, I think that just kind of raises the kind of two sides of the coin. Did the Dolphins need to pay Tua? Yes. But also, did they pay him too much? And is that going to probably hamstring their Super Bowl hopes? Probably. I think that you have to look at both sides when you're looking at the Tua deal especially, but honestly, both of these deals.
Yeah. No, that's the big part of it, right? With just the fact that, again, I'm going to emphasize that because I still stand by what I said at the beginning of the podcast. I think, what else are they going to do? Start Mike White in a year? It's not, you have to pay him. I think at this point, what we've sort of learned is quarterbacks, because of how important they are to their teams, they have so much just negotiation power. Like, there's nothing you can do. You have to give them the money. We saw that, again, Lions fans are going to come after us, but we saw that with Jared Goff because we saw him get that deal. And even though he's had some very good years, $50 million? He's making more than Patrick Mahomes, I believe. And now so is Tua. So is Jordan Love. Like, it's insane. They're all great quarterbacks in their own right, arguably top 15. It's just, that's so much money. That is so much money that you're just throwing at a quarterback that, sure, is better than anything you'll find on the market, but it's not a $50 million quarterback, right? And that's why people get mad at it. But it's just, again, what else are you going to do? Like, you really don't have another choice. So
Yeah.
I don't think that's part of the reason why when I look at this, I have such a hard time giving a ranking to these, or a grade if you want to these deals, because I just look at it and go like, you are handcuffed to the guy the second that he started playing well. That's the truth. The second he started playing well, that's it. Like, until he wants to leave, he's your quarterback.
Yeah. And one thing I will say to that is the smartest thing that we've seen teams do, if they are able, is to A, get on signing a quarterback early. So if you look at a guy like Jalen Hurts, like the Eagles are really good at doing this in general, where they get on their players early to where like you see them in the moment and you're kind of like, oh my God, like he still has like 2 years left on his rookie deal. Why are you extending him? But then by the time that rookie deal expires, it's actually at a really good value. Or now this is harder to do because the players might not necessarily want to do that. But if you can give up term, like in the Mahomes deal, I'm sure that Mahomes deal will get restructured down the road to where he'll get more money. But like to get Mahomes is not at a top 10 quarterback value right now in terms of contract. Both he and insane. Josh Allen are Mahomes is tied for 11th and Josh Allen is 12th, which is just crazy. And because it really is just like when you pay those guys. I don't know. I think that if you were to say the Dolphins made any mistake, it would be waiting this long. But to counterpoint my own point there, he's been injured so much that you really didn't know what you had, to where it was like a genuine question. Like, if Tua didn't lead the Dolphins to the playoffs, if he didn't play a full season, if he didn't look really good at points, are we even talking about this contract, right? I think that's just, I don't even know if I made a solid point with that last minute of rambling, but it's just to say, like, signing a quarterback is hard, and there's very few things you can do to get yourself ahead of that 8-ball. So this deal, I don't think it's good. Like, I don't think it's good for the Dolphins. I think it's quite shit for them. But, like, really, what are you going to, like your whole point, what are you going to do?
They would have given him, the truth is, they probably would have given him more. At the end, like, it's probably a fact.
Because what are you supposed to do?
Like, all of the cards are on his side of the table. If he wanted to go to free agency and go play somewhere else, he could have. You are basically forced to give him this amount of money or deal with the consequences of not giving him this much amount of money. And I think at the end of the day, paying Tua $50 million, the pros outweigh the cons. And that's the shitty thing. It's way more money than he deserves. Yeah. But what are you going to do? Start Mike White? Like, you have all of these guys signed in for multiple years at this point. I don't know how long Tyreek's on, but I think Jalen Waddle's still on his rookie contract for a little bit. This team's still going to be a contender in a year. They're going to be still very good in a year. And I think they know that. And they know that they're going to have to keep the quarterback, who's a huge part of that, on the roster to be able to continue to do that. So I think, at the end of the day, I think it's a great deal. We've talked mainly about the Dolphins. We should probably talk about the Packers if we want to move over there. But it's a lot of the same for the Packers, I think. I think it is kind of, I don't know. I kind of glossed over it, but it is kind of crazy that Jordan Love got more money, even if it's $8 million. It seems like it's such an odd little detail that just has me like, I don't know, it has me a little bit. I don't necessarily get it. I'd have to look at both of their stats and see if there's actually a huge difference, but I've always kind of looked at them as very similar quarterbacks. So seeing one get actually valued above the other, even if it's only $8 million over, which is $2 million here, it's still crazy. It's still a little crazy to me. But the Packers are even younger than the Dolphins. They're going to be great for the next 4 years. And I think that's a fairly safe thing to say. They're going to be good this year. So at least for me, I'm really excited to see what this Packers team can do. I actually think it looks a lot better for the Packers, the deal, than it does for the Dolphins.
So
do you disagree?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't think either deal is necessarily great. I think Jordan Love is a better quarterback than Tua at this point in his career and has a lot more potential. So there's a lot. I think the chances that Jordan Love lives up to this contract are much higher than the chances of Tua living up to this contract. However, I still don't like. Obviously, same thing for Tua. You had to do it. There was no choice here. You had to pay him this amount of money.
The main shitty
Absolutely
thing
no choice.
with Jordan Love is just the fact that you've only really seen one full season of him, and you're giving him $200 million.
Yes, that's point one. Point two is just in terms of this whole, I'll say, Packers draft strategy, which we saw the Falcons adopt. We saw the Packers do twice. It's what they did with Aaron Rodgers, where you have an established starter and then you take another guy. So Rodgers got taken when Favre was there. Obviously, Love got taken when Rodgers was there. Penix got taken when Cousins was there. Now, it's had an 100% success rate up until this point. We don't know how Penix is going to do, but obviously Rodgers and Love both worked out. The one issue with this is that one of the biggest advantages that a team can have, we talked about this with the Niners, is a cheap, good quarterback. You only get that on rookie deals. And because Jordan Love essentially sat out the entirety of his rookie deal on the bench, you're not getting that advantage anymore. So you're still having to build up this roster. This roster is still very good. It's still very young, but you are going to hamstrung from the start. Now, if you're a Packers fan, you say, well, you have the quarterback, nothing else matters, and that's fair. But it is something to say if I was a Packers fan where I'd be like, well, shit, I would have been happier if we just fucking kicked A-Rod to the curb like a year or two earlier and got a couple years of Love on his rookie deal. That's the thing.
They
Obviously,
had some
you don't know how
success in those
history.
last years. Like, I get it means nothing if you don't win the Super Bowl, right? Like, that's the thing. You can make that argument all you want, but it's okay. I guess. At the end of the day, what they made a conference.
Those late year Rodgers teams were like the last couple years of Rodgers were not great. They
were good regular season
especially
teams.
the last year. Especially the last
Yes.
year. Even
he won an MVP. He won two MVPs.
Fucking sham MVPs. I hate Aaron Rodgers for anybody who doesn't know. But
yeah, that's why I'm
just thinking of that last. I just think that last. I remember that last year, of Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay just not being fantastic. I'm looking into it now, so maybe my facts are wrong. But yes, it was definitely time. But yeah, no, I think that's just the one thing where I worry about, and just say, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, the Packers in the last year of Aaron Rodgers went 8-9 and missed the playoffs. So I don't know. Maybe you think maybe we could have seen that earlier. Who knows? But yes, the Jordan Love argument
they
is
were
very much
bad
like what you
year.
said.
The team around Rodgers was really ass.
And so was Rodgers.
Yeah, he wasn't great. That's true.
He was injured. Like that was that was the issue that year. But anyways, big issue with Jordan Love. Maybe I'll throw this question back to you because you already kind of brought it up.
Sure.
Is there any way you can justify paying a quarterback top 3 quarterback money after only seeing one season out of him?
I think in rare situations like the one that the Packers made for themselves, you gotta imagine that it would be so hypocritical for them to not give him an opportunity for 3 years and then say we haven't seen enough experience out of you, buddy. Sorry, can't give you that big paycheck after a year.
That's true.
Like I think that's probably the conversation that was going on in the room. If I were to bet, because it's like as much as yes, absolutely, should you be paying a quarterback $200 million after one season? No, absolutely fucking not. That's a terrible idea. But did they have a choice? No, not at all. You could make the argument that they could have rolled the dice and maybe tried to sign him halfway through the season, but I feel like that's just disrespectful to Jordan
That's
Love.
risky.
He's been a team guy this entire time. Like, even if he hasn't necessarily, and in his one season we've seen him, he did earn it, but it was one season. He may have not necessarily earned the contract on the field, but you got to think he earned it behind the scenes. He sat for so long. Like, he bid his time making $1 million a year while everybody thought that he was probably going to be a bust because he had been sitting for so long. And finally he got his chance. He took it, had a 30-tutty year, 4,000 yards. I think, how many picks? 11? Like, he had a terrific season. Led the Packers decently far in the playoffs. I mean, like, he couldn't have had a better season, truthfully. He wasn't going to be MVP.
Yeah.
Going into the year, when we were talking about the Packers, that would have been the best I would have said we would have seen out of Jordan Love. Like, peak Jordan Love.
I don't even think anybody was predicting that.
Yeah, probably not.
I don't even
probably
think,
not. You're probably
anybody
right.
would have said this as like any sort of possibility.
In out of the two of them, it's really odd. It's really fucking odd. But I'd almost say Jordan Love deserved the contract more than Tua did, which is I know I'm gonna get hated for it, but
I don't think that's that hateable of a comment.
I think it is, but it's still.
No. I don't think that's controversial. I feel like that's probably like the more basic take, honestly, because you look at what Tua's. First of all, situation. I think Tua has like Jordan Love doesn't have fucking Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and that fucking offensive line like Teron Armstead. Like you look at that.
Tua also
Tua has never had as good of a season.
Yeah.
Tua has never had as good of a season as Jordan Love just did. Like, that's just a fact. Even though he has all of this around him. Like, I think that's what you have to point to. Tua has also been way more inconsistent health-wise. Obviously not something he can control, but that is something to take into the picture. Like, I think saying Jordan Love deserves this contract more isn't necessarily a controversial pick. I feel like that's probably the most... That's probably the shock kind of statement. And that probably is why he got paid more. But it is the riskier contract, I would say, because of the small sample size.
You don't think the injuries we've seen to Tua makes it risky at all? On the other side of things?
I mean, fair point. I think both of them are terribly risky. I think paying your quarterback that much, no matter what, is terribly risky. But, yeah, I would say both things can be true. I think the Jordan Love contract is riskier just because of the small sample size and because you're paying him more. But I think that Jordan Love has a much higher chance to actually live up to that contract than Tua does. It's floor and ceiling, right? That's kind of the argument that I.
But to put your ass in the seat, in the GM seat for both of these teams, do you think in their situation you would have said no to either of these contracts?
Oh, absolutely not.
Exactly. Right? Which is why like I just wanted to emphasize that for all the people who are typing in the comments the same thing that I said earlier of what did you want them to do? Start Mike White? Like it's what else are they supposed to do? Like when you have put this much effort into two quarterbacks, they have both been in 2020 do they both have the same draft year? No, I don't think so. Do they? Wait.
Probably.
Actually, yeah. For the contracts to line up, yeah.
Jordan Love.
Yeah, 2020.
The end of the. I believe
right?
So.
Yeah. So there you go. They both have been lined up in 2020 when both of these team players were drafted. They were both set up to be the guy by 2025, 2024, and they are. So they are given the contracts that they deserve. And that both of these fan bases probably hope they will grow into. I think it's more that. I think when you're offering this much money, you got to just hope they'll grow into it. And that Tua stops getting hurt. So I think that's the main thing. I think, truthfully, I don't even, as a Dolphins fan, I don't think you would even necessarily be thinking, like, I hope Tua gets better. I hope Tua stays on the field. I think that's the hope. Because he has been so talented, but he has just been absolutely handicapped by all of these terrible injuries. So hopefully things change this year.
I mean, hopefully. I do think, as a Dolphins fan, you also do kind of want to say Tua played hope Tua plays better because again,
Yes. Well,
I think
okay.
he has been a lot more game manager-esque.
Yes.
Again,